Hello and welcome to the channel, guys. This is Everything Barcelona. Let's just look at the agenda and then we'll get talking. Napoli versus Barcelona preseason match review. La Liga First Match versus Athletic Bilbao reviewed. Injury updates. Coutinho to Bayern. Neymar transfer saga continues. So last Sunday we had our last match of the preseason against Napoli in the United States. We played well there, didn't we?
Yes, we certainly did. This was the Barcelona that we wanted to see. They dominated throughout the game and there was a lot of intensity. Frenkie de Jong was a beast in midfield, both on and off the ball. He was pulling all the strings. Alenia was also a great partner to de Jong in midfield. And this de Jong, Alenia, Roberto midfield really worked that day. Suarez was linking up excellently with Griezmann, and it'll be a pleasure to watch what this trio can do when Messi is added to it. The first goal came because of a link up between them, and Griezmann tried and the try was saved, but then the rebound went to Suarez and he didn't miss. Griezmann scored his very first goal just minutes after that, and it was a very Barca-esque goal with Frenkie de Jong, Alenia, Alba all getting involved, but a superb pass from Alenia was the real key to the goal. Dembele lost the ball a few times in the first half, but he was incredible after that. This is the Dembele we want to see, right? And again, the main problem with this guy has been consistency. He must do this all season and be consistent all season. He gave a brilliant assist to Suarez's sensational second goal, which was the third goal of the game for us. And then he went on to score another individual goal himself. This is the confidence we want to see in this guy. He's young and he's talented, and we want to see him be consistent. Even though the 4 goals we scored came in a spell of 15 minutes, we dominated throughout the game. It was not just those 15 minutes. Even at the end, when the subs came on, Rafinha had a good shot at goal, and we were still dominating. All of this seemed like a very good way to go back to Spain and start La Liga with a lot of confidence for us.
Speaking of which, we had our first La Liga game against Athletic Bilbao yesterday at San Mamés. We lost the game 1-0 with all the confidence from preseason. How did that happen?
Well, Valverde had said before that he might stick with the same starting 11 as the Napoli preseason game, which had worked brilliantly there. Messi obviously was out of the squad, still recovering from the injury, and he didn't travel with the team to San Mamés. But with the same starting 11 that dominated in the Napoli game, it seemed like we would have a great start, but we were wrong. The game as such was incredibly boring. One brilliant bicycle kick goal by Athletic player Aduriz was the only goal of the game, and we lost the first match of La Liga for the first time since 2008, which is more than a decade. There was no urgency, there was no domination, and there was no plan. We lost the ball way too many times. We weren't able to handle the press from Athletic Club. We got to the final third so many times, but we weren't able to do anything once we got there. The crosses were no good. There was no plan at all. We seemed to aimlessly pass the ball around once we got there, and then their defenders got to it every time. Suarez couldn't do much, even with an errant pass which was gifted to us, he just hit the post. Griezmann was playing too wide when Suarez was on the pitch, and he was dropping too deep. It almost seemed like we had 2 left backs in Alba and Griezmann. Suarez went off with an injury in his calf, and then Griezmann moved a little to the center, where he was much more effective actually. Dembele was again inconsistent. He kept losing the ball. He will get a few more chances, of course, but he'll really have to prove himself that he can be consistent. He will not make such errors really quickly. There were some horror passes by him, and he really needs to get back on track. But obviously there were some positives too. Ter Stegen was doing what he did all of last season, saving us when we were not performing. Rafinha came on for Suarez once he went off with an injury, but Rafinha by far was one of our best players of the day. He had a shot that almost went in, and he created some really great chances as well. De Jong was marked continuously by Raul Garcia, but he still managed to hold on to the ball most of the time. And he could have used some help in the midfield, which he didn't get. But overall, I think we spent the whole of last season relying on individual performances. Messi saved us, Ter Stegen saved us, Dembele saved the day a lot of times, and we had very, very few team performances last season. And we didn't have any individual performances in yesterday's game, and which is why we lost. So we have been relying on individual performances, and these individual performances have been masking Valverde's lack of a plan, and today it showed. It was exposed. Right. When you see teams like Liverpool and Man City play, you know what they're trying to do. They have a clear style, they stick to it. We just pass the ball and rely on an individual to make things happen. Our players and our board stuck with Valverde even after a disappointing last season. And when I say disappointing, I don't mean only in terms of trophies. Those things can be won. I mean the way we play. It was frankly disappointing, and it was frankly just getting by each game, just managing somehow because of individual performances. I can only hope that Valverde changes this season and he has something up his sleeve. It'll be a long season if that's not the case. And come to think of it, we said that we had a great attack this season, but look at the situation now. We have Messi injured, we have Suarez injured, Coutinho is off to Bayern, which we'll be talking about in a moment. Dembele has been erratic with his passing and inconsistent with his performances. Griezmann is still adapting. So what are we doing now? We are relying on Rafinha. This is not the great start that any of us would have hoped or wanted. Having said that, it is still early in the season, and it's better to play like this and have all these injuries over with right now rather than later. And also after the match, Valverde seemed to say that we might have more players coming in, so we might not be done yet.
Alright then, let's go to injury updates. What's the situation there?
So Neto recently injured his wrist during training and he went through surgery and he has been ruled out for the next 6 to 8 weeks. This means it's very important for Ter Stegen to remain injury-free over the next few weeks because we don't have a backup as such. Messi is still training alone. He's recovering from his injury. He should be back for the Camp Nou game against Real Betis next week. If not as a starter, then at least off the bench. Suarez injured his right calf in yesterday's game and his recovery will determine how long he'll be out for, but I think it might be at least 2 to 3 weeks before we see him playing again.
Okay, so now let's go to the big topic. Coutinho to Bayern.
Yes, that's right. Bayern have confirmed that they have an agreement with Barcelona for a loan deal for Coutinho for 1 season with an option to buy. It is believed that the loan amount is 20 million euros and the option to buy will cost them 120 million euros. Bayern will pay Coutinho's wages too. Just a quick note here, Barca have already paid the 135 million euros to Liverpool that we owed for Coutinho. We will avoid having to pay another 20 million euros if the Brazilian reached 100 games, and we also don't need to pay the 5 million euros in case we won the Champions League with Coutinho.
So what do you think of this deal? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for Coutinho. I don't doubt for a second that he's a great talented player after what he did at Liverpool. He can get a fresh start and prove himself at Bayern. This is really, a great way for him to start over. But I think it is really concerning for us, for Barcelona, on 2 accounts. The first thing is that we seem to be getting all these great players and kind of ruining them. Coutinho was meant to be a success. Valverde didn't know where to play him. We didn't know how to use the most expensive signing that our club has ever made. Right. And this is extremely shocking. What was the point of buying him without having a plan of how we were going to use him? Same thing, you can say the same thing about Malcolm. We bought him for absolutely no reason. We just sold him off without even giving him any game time. And the second thing that concerns me is, what does this Coutinho to Bayern thing mean for the Neymar transfer? I mean, we all thought that Coutinho was the one part of the deal with PSG that was fixed and the rest was being negotiated. But now it looks like he's off to Bayern. And so what does that mean for the Neymar transfer? Is the deal off? It's very confusing at the moment.
That is a good segue into our next topic, which is the Neymar transfer saga, of course. So what's happened in the saga this week?
Well, there was a meeting on Wednesday at Paris where a delegation from Barca met with the PSG officials to discuss the Neymar transfer. It seemed like there was some good progress there and that PSG had agreed on one player and there were negotiations going on for the second player and the amount of money that would be paid in addition to the 2 players. There were a lot of reports trying to guess who the second player was and what the amount of money was, but what seemed kind of unanimously agreed upon was who the first player was, and it was Coutinho. So everything else is irrelevant because Coutinho now is going to go to Bayern on a loan. So what does that mean for the deal with PSG and the transfer of Neymar? Is the deal off now? I don't know, but it certainly is a huge blow for the Neymar deal if these reports are to be believed. In addition to this, there were also reports that Bartomeu was supposed to be meeting Al-Khelaifi in Liverpool this week to discuss the Neymar transfer, but Bartomeu ended up staying in Spain for the La Liga opener. There were also reports that Bayern was actually closing in on a deal with Real Madrid to sign Gareth Bale on a loan when Barcelona stepped in and offered them Coutinho, and thus made sure that Real Madrid doesn't get the cash that they need, which they might use to sign Neymar. I don't know how true that is. But whatever be the case, this is strange because if we still are in for Neymar, what cards do we have after Coutinho is out the door? Were PSG not interested in Coutinho? Was the goal to free up some money on the wage bill by offloading Coutinho so that we can pay for Neymar's wages? Was it just to make sure that Real Madrid doesn't get him? That could be another possibility. I mean, that seems like a good possibility because frankly, Barca and Real Madrid both don't really need Neymar. But to let him go is to gift him to your eternal rivals. So if the goal was to make sure that Real Madrid doesn't get hold of Neymar, then I think it might have worked because if you see the most recent reports, then PSG are sort of trying to heal the wounds with Neymar. Their sporting director Leonardo came out and said that Neymar is not actually separated from the team. He's still a PSG player. Their manager Thomas Tuchel actually went and said that with Neymar, we are stronger. If there's no solution for him, he will stay at PSG. This comes just a few weeks after PSG removed all the Neymar jerseys from their stores, removed him from all their promos, and after the fans abused Neymar, even though he didn't even play during their Ligue 1 opener. So, it looks like they're kind of trying to mellow down after, coming to terms with the fact that he might actually be with them for another season. But remember, Valverde did say that there might be more players coming in, so who knows? There are reports that suggest that another delegation is going to Paris to hold talks over Neymar on Monday, so stay tuned guys, it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks.
Alright, that's it for now. Our next match is on Sunday against Real Betis at home. We'll be back with more updates soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Thank you all.